I'm going live. And welcome again to the Flagrant 2 podcast. We are live recording episode 4. I am here, your host, Kyle Flieger, writer for valleyofthesuns.com. I'm rocking a new microphone. Allegedly, that's going to help. And we do have Noah Strackbein with me, editor for valleyofthesuns.com. He's going to get with us later on, and we're going to discuss some of the questions surrounding the Suns leading into training camp in a month and some of the stuff going on with Team USA. So this is a Thursday podcast. Couple of quick announcements that I'm excited to make. Thursday nights from now on, starting next week, we will be hosting the podcast live from Boulders on Southern. That is a place that specializes in sports/craft beer. I'm excited to announce them as one of the new sponsors for the podcast. We'll be hosting at least one podcast a week from there live. There will be coupon codes, specials, drink specials, food specials, stuff like that, so that the people who listen can take advantage of all that. And there will be more on that as the week progresses. You're going to need to check out my Twitter at Suns Debate, my Facebook. I'm Kyle Flieger, and you can also check us out at valleyofthesuns.com. So we're going to get into that, and it's exciting to have that news. But in the meantime, we're going to keep it small time, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Suns and some of the Team USA notes. So first and foremost, I wanted to bring up a topic before I get Noah on the podcast, because he's going to argue with me about who the Suns starting five should be. But before we get there, I just wanted to discuss one of the major issues. You know, I have a controversial topic that I think most people who want to argue about the Suns are going to be willing to argue with me about. And that's, you know, I personally see Eric Bledsoe as a Western Conference All-Star. Now, to justify my claim, we're going to get into it a little bit. Now, when you ask yourself who's the competition to be a Western Conference All-Star at point guard, you've got to look at a couple of different factors. First, you've got Chris Paul and Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook. So I realize immediately I'm barking up that tree. Certainly, if you want to, you can beat me down and argue with me that those three players have an inside track on being the Western Conference All-Stars at point guard. However, Chris Paul's old. Steph Curry's fragile. He's coming off an injury. And Russell Westbrook's been hurt multiple times in his career. So assuming one of these players can't go in the All-Star game is not a wild idea. And let's presume one of them, for the sake of argument, is unavailable for the All-Star game. What's going to happen then? And I'd like to argue that Eric Bledsoe is going to fill that spot. Now, basic statistics would tell us that Eric Bledsoe is one of the better point guards in the Western Conference. He's a guy who can average 20 points a game, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, and potentially 2 steals, which there are very few players in the NBA that put those types of numbers up. But if you just take an example of real plus-minus, number one at real plus-minus in point guards, which tries to keep track of defensive plus-minus, offensive plus-minus. So don't get me wrong, these analytics have flaws. Real plus-minus, even statistic nerds and geeks would tell you, has its own ups and downs. It has areas where maybe it over or undervalues certain types of performance. But the fact remains is that right now, Eric Bledsoe, this is the list. Here's your Western Conference list. It goes Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook, Ricky Rubio, Mike Conley, the $150 million man, Patrick Beverley, and then Eric Bledsoe. Now, while many people argue with me that Chris Paul, Steph Curry, and Russell Westbrook have a chance to, or are guaranteed to beat Eric Bledsoe out for an all-star spot, no one's going to be able to explain to me how Patrick Beverley is going to do it. In terms of pure statistics, I think Eric Bledsoe is a better player than Mike Conley. Ricky Rubio might even be traded before we get halfway through the year in favor of Chris Dunn, so he may not even be playing in the Western Conference by the time the All-Star game comes around. And the point I'm trying to make is I think Eric Bledsoe's set for a big year. Eric Bledsoe is one of my favorite players. I've been enthusiastic about his progress since he became a Phoenix Sun. If we want to just look at the fact that no matter when it's been for Eric Bledsoe, he's gotten better every single year. We're talking he went from averaging, 8 points a game in approximately 20 minutes to 20 points a game in 34 minutes with the Suns last season. He's a guy who can average 6 assists, 5 rebounds. 5 rebounds for a point guard who's 6'1" is phenomenal. He's one of the more elite point guards in that regard. He's one of only 40 players in the NBA last year, 39 players, I believe, that had a player efficiency rating, one of the Hollinger statistics that, like I said, these statistics are flawed, but they are indicators of skill. He's one of 39 players to have an over 20 PER, and 30 players make the All-Star games. So from there, we can see that the All-Star game is something that Eric Bledsoe has a really great chance of making. But even beyond that, the one thing I love about Eric Bledsoe's game is that Bledsoe himself always works to improve one area. Now, granted, he may not have an area where he's the best. He's not the best defensive rebounding point guard. He's not the best three-point shooting point guard, although he does shoot approximately 37% from three last year, and he's been in a place where he's shot close to 40% on a limited number of three-point attempts. So it's not like he suffers from outside. It's just not necessarily a strength. He's not a guy who's going to score 30 points a game, but 20 is realistic. So the Western Conference has a deficit of elite point guard play, which is why I think Eric Bledsoe is going to be crucial to the Suns' success. If Eric Bledsoe has a big year, the Suns are going to have a big year. Now, what that means, who knows? For the Suns, the big year could be 35 wins. It could be 40 wins. They could win 41 games with this young team, make the playoffs as a 41 or 42 win team, and establish themselves as the fun young team to be with. And I would say that's the golden scenario. I think if the Suns want a specific outcome, the outcome they're looking for is don't sacrifice any money. That's why they haven't spent any in free agency, really. They haven't traded away any assets. They continue to acquire young talent, whether it's on the coaching staff or on the roster. And the Suns have put themselves in a position where maybe they can be a Utah Jazz that contends for the 8th seed while not sacrificing their young talent. Maybe they can be a Golden State Warriors 4 years ago, an Oklahoma City Thunder 6 years ago, where they have this young up-and-coming talent, especially at the point guard position, and parlay that into getting somebody in the 2017 free agency to come. Figure out which assets they don't need anymore. But Eric Bledsoe's the real deal. He's one of the most fun defensive guards to watch. He takes a lot of chances, but I challenge you Sun fans to watch Eric Bledsoe this year. Watch him play defense. Watch the way he battles every single person he guards in order to try to generate steals, generate quick offense, get us back into transition where the Suns really have excelled, especially in the type of offense they plan on running. So I'm going to say it. My hot take for the year is Eric Bledsoe will be an all-star in the Western Conference. One way or another, he's going to be the surprise of the Suns. He is the best player on the Phoenix Suns. I challenge Suns fans to argue with me, but I'll stand by my claim. Eric Bledsoe's the best player the Suns have. I don't think it's particularly close. And this year, a lot is riding on Eric Bledsoe. Whether free agents come in 2017, whether the Suns progress and have something to look forward to as a team and can build chemistry and can build confidence and can build comfort in the type of offense they're running under Earl Watson, a lot of that's going to rely on Eric Bledsoe because he is the point guard. So I'm excited. I think Eric Bledsoe has a big year in front of him. I know he has health concerns. You can tell me that all day long. I think the Suns deliberately kept him out last year for their length of the season. It was sort of a way to involuntary tank. It's like the Lakers playing Kobe. They wanted to tank. They wanted an excuse to lose. Well, not having your best player, which Eric Bledsoe is the Suns' best player, is a great reason to lose games and to increase your draft stock and to acquire Dragon Bender and to get assets to acquire Marquise Chris. So I'm not saying the Suns ever spoke about tanking. I'm saying that Eric Bledsoe getting hurt probably led them to say to themselves, you know what, Eric, you're a big piece of this puzzle. Just take your time. Take it easy. Make sure you're 100% healthy. We see these guys come back from injury too soon all the time. Don't be one of those guys. So I think we're going to see Eric Bledsoe as an all-star. But the question really is who Eric Bledsoe is going to play with in the starting five. And, the nice thing is that I've got Noah here with me, and Noah's going to argue with me right now about who the Suns starting five is. Noah is a editor here at Valley of the Suns. He is a Suns fan to his core, but more than anything, he loves basketball, and he's going to get in here and he's going to tell me who he thinks the Suns starting five is going to be. So, Noah, you heard me rant about Eric Bledsoe and how I think he's going to be an all-star this year. Let's pencil in point guard, but other than that, is there even a single position on this team that has a guaranteed starter?
What's up, Kyle? To answer your question, I don't think there is. I mean, you obviously have to think Brandon Knight, but we all kind of assume that he's moving more towards a two guard as Tyler Ulis secures his spot. I would like to say as the number 2 point guard. But like you said, Eric Bledsoe's the point guard of the future for Phoenix, and right now he's their best player alongside Devin Booker, and that's not going to change. So yeah,
is Booker going to start? Shortly. Noah, is Booker going to start?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. Yes, he is. Whether Brandon Knight's going to cry about it or not is a different story, but yes, Booker is going to get the starting role. We all saw it last season. Yeah, he earned it.
See, I don't know. I really think the Suns are going to start Brandon Knight. I think the Suns are going to bring him off in to start. They're going to run 2 point guards. They're going to play Knight for 5 minutes. They're going to pull him for Booker, give Booker 5 minutes with Bledsoe, pull Bledsoe, and have a rotation where they transition Bledsoe Knight to Bledsoe Booker, and then to Knight and Booker, and then from there you might see some Ulis Booker or some Ulis and Knight, and possibly some 3-guard lineups, which are really exciting. But I don't know, Noah. I really honestly think that Brandon Knight, they sort of made a commitment to him financially. He didn't really get a chance to show the Suns what he has. I don't think Devin Booker's going to start. I think Devin Booker plays 25 to 27 minutes a game. I don't know. I don't think they're going to start him.
No. I want to say I agree, but the hard part is that everybody assumes that the Suns made this big financial commitment to Brandon Knight, which they did, and it's looking like they're going to stick it out. The problem is that they made the same thing to Tyson Chandler, and he didn't do what they really wanted him to do. I'm not saying Brandon Knight is as much of a mistake as Chandler is.
No, he's 24 years old, so he's got time.
Yeah, but you're not going to develop him into your future shooting guard when you have Devin Booker and you have guys like TJ Warren, so you're not even going to play small ball because you want Warren to play. Right now, Knight's nothing more than a guy to provide minutes for Booker and Bledsoe.
All right, so let's say you're right.
Because of that, they're not going to cater to him.
Let's say it's Bledsoe and Booker, which I think Suns fans universally would be thrilled with based on the conversations we have with Suns fans on Valley of the Suns. So, definitely agree that Booker is one of the people we want to see starting. So let's say, for the sake of argument, it's Bledsoe, Booker. Who's playing small forward for this team?
That is the biggest question in Phoenix right now. That's bigger than anything. I want to say TJ Warren. I really, really want to say it's Warren, but
I don't think they'll start him. So I think you're going to see PJ Tucker. I think you're going to see Jared Dudley. To be fair, Dudley might start at the 4. We don't really know. That's why I think the Suns starting 5 is such an interesting question, because they're one of the few teams where if you look at them, there's really only one person guaranteed a starting spot. Because if we look at small forward, who do you prefer, Noah? Do you say give Warren the start and try to give him as many minutes as possible, and then if he's not in rhythm, because he's a scoring guy, if he's not in rhythm or if he's not locked in on defense, yank him and throw in Tucker?
Yes. We all would love to see Warren in the starting role from small forward. We all want him to be the small forward of the future. We all want him to pan out and everything. And honestly, if we're all thinking the same way, we know that PJ Tucker is on his way out the door and at the second half of his career. When it comes to Jared Dudley, when he got signed, nobody wanted him to start, and nobody's going to want him to start now. So as much as I agree with you and I believe that it'll be Dudley or Tucker in the starting lineup, we all want it to be Warren, and I'm one of those people that agree and want it to be Warren.
So are you advocating the all youth lineup? Are you wanting the Bledsoe, Booker, Warren, Bender, Len lineup? Is that what we're going to be arguing for? We want the all youth, nobody over 25 allowed?
Without Bender, yes. I as much as everybody loves Bender's potential, I love Chris. I think he's got, all the potential in the world and all the athleticism that everybody needs. And I want him in that stuff. But yes, that youth movement, I'm all about it.
See, I love it. It totally makes me excited to think about that lineup playing together, but I can't see a professional team having their starters be all under 25 and then having, or I think Bledsoe might be 25, 26 now, and then everybody else on their bench unit is the older players. So what, you're running a backup unit of Brandon Knight, PJ Tucker, Jared Dudley, Marquise Chris, and Tyson Chandler? Is that realistically a lineup that you want to have as your backup?
No, again, it's just I don't know. The Suns have put themselves in such a situation where in 3 or 4 years they can easily have one of the best youngest teams in the NBA. But right now, you don't know if you should start these guys and build them or let them sit on the bench and work for minutes. And it makes questions like this nearly impossible.
Well, I think it's fun, and I think if we're going to project out, I'll just put it on the record. I think that the starting lineup, and this isn't the starting lineup I necessarily think the Suns should go with, but the starting lineup I think the Suns will go with is Eric Bledsoe, Brandon Knight, PJ Tucker, Jared Dudley, Tyson Chandler. And while that may make some Suns fans cringe, I think that all of those guys, I think Chandler's going to, start the game and play the first 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and they're going to get Len in. But they want to start setting the tempo defensively because one of the biggest areas of need for the Suns and the youth lineup is a movement toward offense. Dragon Bender's not a great defender. Marquise Chris is not a great defender. Devin Booker's not a good defender. He's a bad defender, at least based on his statistics so far. Brandon Knight's not a good defender. Jared Dudley's a good defender, but the point is the Suns are lacking. TJ Warren's a terrible defender. So I think the Suns are going to go with a starting lineup that's more defensive oriented. I could see them playing Bledsoe and Knight for offense, playing Tucker, maybe Warren, but more likely Tucker, and then Dudley at the power forward, which you heard Earl Watson say during Summer League. And Ryan McDonough, actually, I think is the one who said during Summer League that they plan on starting Dudley, but that they see Bender taking some of those minutes. So is that a mistake? I mean, is playing the defensive unit going to sacrifice too much time? Does it matter whether these young guys start, or does it just matter whether they play a lot of minutes?
It depends on how they work throughout the season. At the beginning of the season, if they're going to go, with their veteran guys, I'm pretty sure you're the one that said it, that you don't want to destroy, rookies' confidence with Bender and Chris. So you don't want to start them and, put them in a role that they can't handle yet. But at the same time, as the season progresses, just like Booker last season, I understand that it was due to injuries, but as he worked his way into the starting role, you could see how his potential just exploded because he worked on his confidence and his game all at the same time. And I think that they need to do that the same way here. When it comes to guys like Alex Len and TJ Warren, I think that, Len's situation, I don't believe Chandler will be with the Suns by the end of, or by the trade deadline.
Will Len be next year? I mean, no, this is make or break time for Alex Len. It's his final year. He has of his rookie contract. He has a $12 million cap hold for Phoenix next year. If they want to reach max contract potential in free agency in 2017, the easiest way to do it, if Len doesn't produce, is just to cut him and to let go of his $12 million cap hold and that'll get him up to about $30 million of max free agency space. So, Alex Len's job is on the line, and he's going to have to show us something this year. He's one of the guys that needs to be on notice, I say.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But at the same time, I think that, Tyson Chandler is already, I don't want to say he's proven that he's not worth the money, but he has. And the Suns, I don't think they're going to keep on to him. I think worst case scenario, Len doesn't work out this season, which I expect him to. I expect him to have a much better year than he's had so far since coming into the league, and really embrace more of a, I want to say, a leadership role with the team, being the starting center. But if he doesn't work out, it's a small ball league now. You don't need an Alex Len on your team. You could work with guys like developing, Bender into a 5 while you sign somebody for maybe $10 million.
Is that true though? Because even the Warriors had Bogut and Festus. The Cavs had, Mozgov played very limitedly, but they had Tristan Thompson, who's a plotter. He's not a guy shooting the 3. He's not a stretch 4 by any means. He's a guy that plays under the basket. The Thunder have Steven Adams and Enes Kanter, neither of which who shoot threes ever. So I agree with you. The league is moving toward that sort of stretch mentality at the 4 and 5. But when teams say that they don't need a big man, haven't they all sort of shown us that they may say that, but like even the Spurs had Duncan, they had Boban, so doesn't it matter to have a rim protector? Don't you need somebody who you can at least play 20 to 25 minutes a game that can intimidate the opposing team from just diving into the lane and pitching the ball out to the 3-point line?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. In today's game, it's much more big man than everybody says it is. But in the upcoming years, as we all see it, it's declining, and somebody like Bender will be a starting center in the NBA. And because of that, they don't really they don't need to rely on somebody like Alex Len, if that makes any sense. You could grab a guy, a low end center who could get the job done. Reach out and see if there's a more developed Allen Williams, somebody like that who you could play and equal out minutes between him and Bender and Chris. And while you're doing that, the league is still adapting and by the time Bender or Chris is ready to, take on that 100% starting role, the league is in full-blown stretch 4 or 5, mode.
Yeah, I agree. I think that everyone's moving that direction, but I feel like, what goes up must come down, and it's a wave of tendency within the league. The league's tendency is currently to target players who have this sort of deep versatility and sacrifice players who have the low post skill set. We see people like Derek Favors, Greg Monroe, Andre Drummond, DeAndre Jordan. These are guys that I'm not trying to, demean. I'm not trying to say they're shitty players. What I'm saying is that they seem to have limited value. That there are times where, and not just because of their bad free throw shooting, they clog up what their team's trying to do on the offensive end. So I can see why teams want to have the ability to spread the floor, but isn't the best model, wouldn't the most dangerous lineup the Suns could start be, if we were just talking pure danger, pure going out there, intimidating other teams, putting the best unit on the floor, wouldn't something scary be something like Bledsoe, Brandon Knight, Booker at small forward, Bender at power forward, and Alex Len at center?
Yes, 100% actually. In a fantasy world, in all of our in all of our dreams, that would be the starting 5 for the Suns. But like you said earlier about the Suns holding Eric Bledsoe out last season, they're not in a position where they're looking to make a splash in the NBA. They're not trying to make the playoffs. They're not trying to finish high in the Western Conference or even compete for an eighth seed. What they're looking to do is build over the next couple of years and continue to establish their team. So they're going to work out guys like Tyson Chandler, and if keep Alan Williams, but bring somebody else in as well through the draft or through free agency. And then, maybe TJ Warren doesn't work out and they make a splash next season in free agency, but they're not going to do that while winning, 50 plus games or 45 plus games or anything like that. So, you don't want to, nobody wants to be the 76ers and tank that bad. But what the Suns are doing is they're just looking to stay as consistent and as mediocre as possible, while guys like Devin Booker and Eric Bledsoe and Brandon Knight and Tyler Ulis and Chris and Bender reach their potential, and then all of a sudden the Suns are the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Golden State Warriors, where all these guys that they drafted and built and worked up have become some of the best players in the NBA, and they all on Phoenix working together.
Yeah, and I think that's the upside potential of the team. I think one of the most interesting questions is what does failure look like for the Suns? Because if the Suns win 25 games, no one's going to be shocked, especially if they're running out there the Bledsoe, Knight, Booker, TJ Warren at the power forward, Alex Len lineup. I mean, no one's going to say that the Suns are being stupid for playing all their young players as many minutes as possible. No one's going to think the Suns are sacrificing anything because they're expected to be a 30, 35 win team, depending on whose, predictions you're looking at. So it's hard to, I think failure for the Suns, like really oddly and this isn't something that I think a lot of people think about, but what may be a failure of a season for Phoenix would be winning between 30 and 38 games. Being too far out of playoff contention for your fan base to really care, or for free agents to really see you as an up-and-coming team, but being so far out of the bottom 5 of the league that your assets in the draft are devalued. So what does losing actually look like for the Suns? Because if the Suns tanking are terrible, no one's going to argue that's a bad idea in Phoenix, I don't think.
No, I completely agree. Failure for Phoenix this season is becoming the 76ers and making it blatantly obvious that you are tanking, which everyone knew the 76ers were tanking last season. And, as much as nobody wants to be the 76ers or follow after them, the Suns are in a mode right now where they are not trying to succeed. All they're trying to do is build. They know that they're not winning a finals this season, so might as well get good draft picks, keep your assets, do things like that.
So what does tanking look like, Noah? What's the sign the Suns have bailed on the season? Trading Bledsoe? Is he the only asset that if he was traded, Suns fans would legitimately say, okay, they're tanking on purpose. They want to lose. They traded Eric Bledsoe for a couple first-round picks or a first-round pick and a young player or an expiring contract. I mean, because it feels like to me the Suns don't have a lot of moves that will be interpreted by their fan base as tanking. They trade Chandler or Knight. People are going to think that's smart. That's not tanking. None of their young players are established enough except for Booker to say that if they traded him, they guarantee themselves tanking. Maybe if you trade Warren, you could argue that's them sort of abandoning it, but he hasn't produced enough to say that that would be a form of tanking either because he doesn't have enough value. I mean, is that the red flag? I mean, if the Suns trade Eric Bledsoe, is that the sign that they're going full 76ers and they're done?
I want to say no. I think that everybody has these high standards for Eric Bledsoe, and they believe that he is the future of Phoenix and everything like that.
Yeah, I argued he'd be an all-star this year.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree. I really do. I think that him and Booker are the bright spots of the Suns. And if they trade him, then, he needs to be worth as much as he is. But if they do trade him and they get valuable assets for him, if they get, say a potential top 10 draft pick and, next year's second round, or, a few players, or, a really strong,
but that's tanking, right?
Center.
I mean, I get that it's a good idea. I agree it's smart, but is it tanking?
No, I don't think it's tanking. I
Well,
think
you're making yourself shitty on purpose this year to acquire future benefits.
Depends on the benefits, I guess.
So if the benefits are longer term, is that what makes the difference? I don't know, Noah. It's just hard to figure out what the Suns are going to do. I know that they want to go into free agency based on, mine and Cody, who is also a Valley of the Suns writer. This is my plug for Valley of the Suns again, the best blog for Suns fans in the Valley. But, when we were talking to Ryan McDonough, he made it sound like they're cool just hanging out. They're going to take it easy. They're going to develop their guys. They might look for a trade to get another draft asset or two, but not really interested all that much in a big trade. So I know that the Suns are going to try to tank. Last year, I know it, Noah. I know in a front office somewhere, and by know I mean speculate, but I know that there was a conversation with Ryan McDonough and Robert Sarver, and they determined Eric Bledsoe is not going to play for the rest of the year despite his ability to, because they wanted to lose as many games as possible. Am I crazy?
No, you're really not at all. They are tanking, and they are doing something like that. But I think that they are smart enough to realize that there's other ways to tank. They're going to do something absurd, like send, Marquise Chris and Dragon Bender down to, the Northern Arizona Suns for half of the season, when we all know that they do not need to play D-League basketball, just like they did for Warren. There was no need to send him to the D-League, and they did it anyways. They're going to do something like that.
I like that. I didn't even think about the D-League. They could totally, now that the Northern Arizona Suns, for those of you who are listening, the Suns are one of the first, I think, 2 teams to relocate their D-League affiliate to this essentially the same city. So the Suns will be playing in Prescott Valley. Those of you who aren't in the Valley of the Suns, that's approximately 2 hours out of the epicenter of Phoenix, maybe an hour and 45 minutes. So it's kind of cool that theoretically you don't have to send Devin Booker, and I don't mean Devin Booker, Dragon Bender, Tyler Ulis, Marquise Chris. You don't have to send those guys all the way to Bakersfield like you would have had to last year. You can send them to a couple of games in the D-League. So do you think that's a bad idea, or do you think that's almost a guarantee that the Suns are going to, relive that model, and we're going to see Dragon Bender. We have too many DBs, but Dragon Bender in the D-League. Is that realistic? Should Suns fans be ready for that?
No, they definitely should be ready for that. Dragon Bender, Marquise Chris, Ulis, all I don't want to say guaranteed, but they are as close to guaranteed as possible to playing in the D-League this year. For some reason, that's the Suns' way of tanking, and they're going to use it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they got way too drastic with it this season, if they started to see success and sent guys, maybe they sent, Alex Len down for 2 weeks for something.
That would be a big move.
A complete lie injury. Say he hurts his ankle, but he never really hurt his ankle.
So we should be watching for the Suns to have those like lingering injuries. He has turf toe. He has, the equivalent of that. He's got a lingering sprained ankle is what you're saying we should be looking for, is the way the Suns are tanking this year.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. They're going to pull off some crazy things, but they are smart enough to not be the 76ers and completely ditch your entire team.
It's tough, though. I mean, I think a lot of people think the Suns might be better off abandoning anybody over the age of 23. I think the Suns if you told Suns fans that starting in the next season they didn't have Eric Bledsoe, which would be a travesty to me. I think he's an all-star. I think he's one of the best 5 point guards in the Western Conference. I think he's elite when he's healthy. Eric Bledsoe is one of my favorite people to watch play basketball. But if Eric Bledsoe were gone, Brandon Knight were gone, Tyson Chandler were gone, and PJ Tucker were gone, I think every Suns fan that posts on Valley of the Suns would be thrilled. They'd see it as a movement toward youth. They'd see it as the Suns making a long-term play, and their timeline's long-term, so why not do it?
And I'm not going to lie, Kyle, I'm one of those guys. Besides Eric Bledsoe, and everybody says that he's injury prone and he can't last the season. Well, like you said before, like we've been talking about, there's no way that a torn meniscus kept him out from December until the end of the season. It just didn't happen. We've all witnessed players tear ligaments in their knees, and they're back in a month, 4 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook came back from a torn meniscus in like 11 days.
That's what I'm saying. You don't tear a meniscus and call it quits halfway through the season. It doesn't happen. But if you're going to get rid of Tyson Chandler and you're going to get rid of Jared Dudley and Barbosa and all those guys, and you're just going to start young and you're the oldest guy on your bench is going to be Brandon Knight, then I wouldn't argue it. I really wouldn't, because again, 3-4 years after you finally are done tanking and done, doing all these absurd things, your team's going to be one of the most dominant teams in the NBA, and they're all going to be around for year after year, just like the Golden State Warriors are now. You look at their bench, and most of them are young. Mostly,
but Curry's a little older, right? Like Curry's
30.
what, 27, 28? So if
Curry's 28.
Yeah, 28. So think about this, Noah, and this is one of the things I think Suns fans need to realize too, is the Suns right now, we hear all the time, the Suns should trade Bledsoe, the Suns should, Knight's a lost cause. This is a guy who's 24 years old. Do you know how many people would have said that Steph Curry's an injury-prone guy who shows talent, but he'll never be healthy enough to play a full season when he was 24 years old or 25 years old like Eric Bledsoe? I mean, that was an extremely popular opinion about Steph Curry. So whereas Suns fans, I think it's easy to get excited about the youth movement and the timeline of the Suns being extended, Eric Bledsoe's still young. Having 4 years from now, a 29-year-old, 30-year-old Eric Bledsoe, a 28-year-old Brandon Knight, and a 23-year-old Devin Booker, 22-year-old Marquise Chris, Dragon Bender, you're talking still a young team. I mean, Eric Bledsoe in 4 years will be younger than Chris Paul right now. So,
no, exactly. You don't want to get rid of Eric Bledsoe. I'm 100% for the youth movement, but we don't need to get rid of Eric Bledsoe.
So I think we agree that if they get rid of Eric Bledsoe, that's the sign they're tanking. That's the sign the Suns are done. They're going straight to. They're racing to the bottom. They're over it. They're going for the first pick if they get rid of Bledsoe.
Exactly. If I don't know what their plan is, but if they think Tyler Ulis is the point guard of the future in the next 2 years, then we really need to reconsider the coaching staff here.
I don't think any 5'9", we'll call him 5'9" for the sake of argument, call him 5'9", even though I think he's shorter than that. I've seen him face to face, and I'm 5'11", so. But let's say
he's short.
Let's say you get your choice. I'll get you out on this one. No, I'm going to let you go. So our last question. Tell me your starting five. You pick the opening day. This is the starting five the Suns are going to play with for the first 20 games of the season to see what they've got. Who are you starting, Noah?
All right. I'll give you my day one starting five, and then I'll give you my trade deadline starting five.
Okay.
Because they're completely different.
Okay.
Day one, we're going Eric Bledsoe at point guard. I agree with you, and Brandon Knight will be the shooting guard. Then Jared Dudley at the 3 spot, Dragon Bender at the 4, and Tyson Chandler playing center. And then by trade deadline, it'll be Eric Bledsoe, Brandon Knight, Devin Booker. I'm gonna stick it out with Bender. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, and Alex Len. And I don't believe Tyson Chandler will be a Sun by the end of the trade deadline.
Okay, so you got Tyson Chandler out the door. You've got the Suns embracing the full youth movement. They're playing the 3-guard lineup that McDonough's been looking to perfect since the Isaiah Thomas and Dragic, Bledsoe pairing. I like it. I mean, I kind of hope that the midseason lineup you're going for is the opening day lineup. I don't think it will be, but I would love it if it were. So
yeah, there's no way, but we'll see.
Well, we will see. And Noah, you can catch Noah's writing. Noah does a ton of work for us over at valleyofthesuns.com. Not only does he have to edit all the nonsense I write, but he's one of the people that provides some of the most content. He helps us break news. We try to do as much as we can over there for Suns fans. So, Noah, thank you very much, and we will be talking to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Kyle. I'll blast as always.
Thank you, sir. So that was Noah Strackbein. Once again, he's a phenomenal writer, even better editor maybe. He could take offense to that if he wanted to, but I doubt he will. We've got a great staff over here at valleyofthesuns.com. Scott Hannah Riggs, the co-editor, Cody Fincher, who's making waves with the local news stations here, and we're trying to get you the best coverage we can of the Phoenix Suns. I hope you enjoyed what we did for you today. I think that the Suns have a bright future. I think the question is, and what we'd love to get more people to weigh in on, is what that future looks like. I mean, as you can hear, Noah and I, we have differing opinions about who the Suns will start to open the season, what direction the Suns will go in, whether or not tanking is something that the fan base will tolerate. You, the fans, are, as qualified to speak on as anybody. So this is, like I said, our Thursday podcast for the Flagrant 2. We will be having Thursday podcasts live from Boulders on Southern for you Arizonans. That's on the corner of Alma School and Southern in Mesa. It is on the northeast corner next to Blast Fitness. It is an incredibly good craft beer bar, but beyond that, they have a vast array of TVs. They're a great place to do your fantasy football draft. If you're like me, and you still have to do your fantasy football draft. We got a few weeks. I don't like to pick my players until we actually know who was hurt during training camp. So I've been holding off as long as possible. My draft's in a couple of weeks. If you have a fantasy football draft to plan, once again, it's Boulders on Southern. Ask for Adam or Justin. We're going to be live there next week. I'm excited to say that a good friend and basketball enthusiast, Antonio Jean, a.k.a. AJ Moorhead, will be on there. I've got a second AJ, Adam Jarvie, joining me, who is the resident basketball enthusiast for Boulders on Southern. Will be live there. If you come during the podcast and mention that that's the reason you're there, you will get 20% off your bill. If you come anytime the following week, or I imagine if you show up to Justin's door in the meantime and you tell him you want 10% off because you listen to this podcast, he might endorse it. He can yell at me about it personally, but they're our official sponsor moving forward for the pod, for the Flagrant 2 podcast. I'm excited to start doing stuff live. We're going to have not only giveaways of different Suns memorabilia, but every Thursday there is a craft beer sponsor or brewery sponsor, so there will be different breweries giving out their own merchandise. We follow their team trivia night, so I know this is a lot of information, but Boulders on Southern is absolutely fantastic. They host trivia like a lot of places. So if you'd like to, you can show up early at Team Trivia. Trivia starts at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time since you're in Arizona. And they've got a great trivia setup, always great swag, free gifts to give away. And then following trivia, we're going to be doing the podcast live from Boulders on Southern, and that's going to be the new thing for us on Thursday nights. So I'm very excited to get that partnership underway. Once again, that's Boulders on Southern on the the northeast corner of Alma School Road and Southern Avenue in Mesa, Arizona, very close to Mesa Community College. I appreciate them taking on us as a sponsee. I look forward to hopefully a lot of Suns fans showing up there and showing them that the Suns fans are going to have a big following, and we're excited for the year. So if you've got any questions, please submit them at Valley of the Suns on Twitter or at Suns Debate. That's my personal Twitter. I write for valleyofthesuns.com. My name is Kyle Flieger. Please look us up. Look up myself, Kyle Flieger, Fleeger, at Facebook. thank you again, and I look forward to talking to y'all on Tuesday.